What is going on, everybody? Um, got some things to talk about. It was first supposed to be a Task with TNA video, and then I saw some other news about TNA. I was like, just lump it in there and it'll do. So the first news is we have Taz obviously put in TNA. From what I've read on ProWrestling.com, they said it was because of money initially, but in an interview, Taz said it wasn't really because of money. It was more mutual. He says he wants to do more things with his career, stuff like that. I know Casey said something about Josh Matthews. He said it wasn't because of Josh Matthews. He said yes, they've had their falling outs and arguments and such, but they've handled that professionally. From what I'm hearing is, if you remember the last TNA show, Josh Matthews was all alone, and that was because Taz didn't get his last check that he was supposed to get, so he just didn't show up. And then I think he did finally get his check though. Um, so first off, before I get to the second part of the news, any thoughts on Taz quitting TNA?
Um, it's kind of surprising, but kind of not. Um, it's probably similar to his, leaving WWE. But WWE, there's whole other issues there too, for reasons why people leave WWE, just because it's Vince's way or the highway. I feel like TNA tries to work with their talent, um, just because they kind of need what they have. They're not like WWE where if somebody leaves, it's like, oh well, we'll just bring up the next guy. TNA doesn't have that big of a roster, especially announcers. WWE has SmackDown announcers, they have Raw announcers, they have NXT announcers, they have announcers for superstars, they have so many. So if it's like if one of them leaves, they can just replace him with somebody else. TNA, they don't really have that anymore. They used to. They used to have a couple different announcers, and then they kind of everyone left. So I don't know if they're going to replace Taz. I would like to see what Taz is going to do now, whether he's going to go to a different company, you know, and announce somewhere else, or whether he's just going to take time off. I hope he doesn't just leave wrestling, altogether, because he knows a lot. He brings a lot of like the educational aspect to it. I don't want to say educational like school, but he explains things and gives you an idea what it's like in the ring. And Josh Matthews can do that to an extent because he did go through Tough Enough with Taz as his trainer. Um, but he hasn't had the experience that Taz has. And yeah, I did make a joke about he couldn't deal with Josh Matthews anymore. He had to deal with him on Tough Enough, and he couldn't do it again. And I'm sure there was, like you said, there's probably some issues and arguments and whatever. But I don't think Taz is one of the kind of guy who really is going to talk too much about his personal life. You're not going to get a straight answer from him. And we don't, to be honest, we don't, deserve we deserve a straight answer, but it's not required. It's not like he has to give us an exact answer. He could just, it's his decision whether he kind of explains more what was going on or whether TNA explains. And it's his decision whether he, finds another company or, goes back to WWE or, because Rhino went back to WWE, and I never thought Rhino would go back to WWE. So there's always things happen, but I just hope this isn't the last time we see him.
All right, and lastly on the Taz thing, I know he said they asked him a question about if he was making good money with TNA, and he said he was. He said if he basically he said if he wasn't making good money, he would have left a long time ago. So he was getting paid whatever he desired to get paid. So the second part of my news that I found out was Sanada is no longer with TNA. I noticed that they said on the same website I was on that he was a move to the alumni section. James Storm just kicked him out of TNA completely. He last called him straight back to Japan. I guess I don't even know. Um, this one hurt me a little bit more than Taz, just because Sanada, he was on the list, man. He was on the list of my boy. He was there. I like Sanada. I was really impressed by Sanada when he was X Division champion, and when he didn't get to cash in for the world title, I was a little bit upset because he kind of held it for Aries. Um, but I don't know. I just I don't know. He's just a young talent that I feel like they just kind of let slip away. But again, I read a while back too that Wrestle One and TNA weren't on the greatest of terms after Bound for Glory. And I don't know which side that kind of falls on, because I feel like TNA really pushed hard to try to please Wrestle One a little bit, um, by not even really promoting it as like a real pay per view. They kind of promoted it as like this cross promotional thing. They didn't defend the world title on the show, so I don't know. I'm upset that Sanada's gone, because I was really hoping they could, make him into a tag team type of guy or something, do something with him. But from what from what I've heard, he's definitely on the alumni section. I checked it earlier. Usually that means you're gone. So, any thoughts on Sanada not being in TNA anymore?
It's again, it goes back to just companies don't like to keep or just don't care about Japanese wrestlers, and it sucks. You know, again, we go back to Yoshitatsu in WWE. He was an awesome wrestler. They just used him as a gimmick, Um, even back in the 90s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, Taka Michinoku, um, he was awesome. He was a really good wrestler, along with there was a couple other Japanese wrestlers in WWE at that time. They were all in a faction. I forgot all of them, but they were really good, and WWE just used the stupid, Japanese gimmick and made them a joke. But I thought TNA would do better with Sanada, but and I don't know, like you said, it could have been an issue with Wrestle One. I mean, I know that Ring of Honor does a show with I think it's New Japan every year or something like that. So I mean, maybe they just know how to deal with overseas promotions like in Japan and whatever better than TNA does. So maybe he could, go work with Ring of Honor. I don't know. I would like to see him more, on some company, not just like Wrestle One or something where I don't have to, go searching and searching on the internet just to find, matches with him, because he wasn't my favorite, but I did like him. Um, I didn't like when they made him the Great Sanada. I thought that I felt like that was a little bit of a nail in the coffin type of thing, kind of making him into a gimmick from, the Great Muda. I just felt like that didn't work out. And it could have been also an issue with Bound for Glory, because a lot of people had issues with Bound for Glory. It wasn't up to the standards that Bound for Glory usually is. And maybe that was because they were trying to mix aspects of Wrestle One and Japanese style shows with TNA, and it didn't really work. So maybe Wrestle One got upset that they kind of ruined the show that way. Um, but again, it's something that we may never really know exactly what's going on. It's just we have to wait and see, which sucks, but you know they still have some good talent in TNA, and hopefully they go up from here and learn from their mistakes, which they don't, because they've been making these mistakes for years now. But I don't know.
Yeah. I I also I've heard some stuff about Wrestle One not really being a good wrestling company for some reason, um, by some people too. So I don't know. I don't know really what went on there. I know they didn't have the best relationship after that initial relationship, but I'm not really sure. Um, I thought the Great Sonata thing. I hindsight looking back on it, I think it would have been good if they would have turned into the Great Sonata, had like a one-on-one match. If they were gonna not defend the title, have them be the one-on-one match main event at Bound for Glory, and then like have them like hug it out, so then the fans like get that respect, that kind of passing of the torch thing with them. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, with like, I feel like Wrestle One is one of the promotions that you don't hear a lot about. Like, you hear a lot about New Japan, you hear about like Pro Wrestling Noah. You hear all these other companies. You don't really hear that much. At least I don't hear that much about Wrestle One. So I mean, it could be that they're just not a good company um, to work with or to wrestle for, but I don't know.
Well, there we go. We got Taz quitting TNA and Sanada also not being with TNA. I don't know if he quit. I think or he just got terminated. I'm not really sure. So if you have any thoughts on those two things, feel free to leave them in the comments because we just gave ours, so we want to hear from you. That's how it is. So feel free to leave it in comments that you need to. Follow the Twitter page, especially the podcast, because I posted about this video a little bit earlier. You said it was coming in the near future, like probably today. So hope you guys enjoyed. Casey, you got any final thoughts?
Uh, 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 Irish wrestling is the best apparently now, because all of the, I mean, well, yeah, yeah, you got Finn Balor, you know, you got Sheamus coming back with the weird beard thing with I don't know what they were doing with that, but which is weird because you always think of like Mexico with wrestling and Japan. You don't really think of other countries like Ireland and you think of European wrestling, but more like um, English wrestlers and stuff, which is kind of cool. I guess it's kind of we're getting a different aspect in wrestling. I feel like nowadays, we're getting different wrestlers, which is good. It's just unfortunate for guys like Sanada and you know Tigre Uno, who we saw him last week. We did with Tigre Dos, but I don't know. It's something we just have to kind of wait and see. Hopefully, things work out for all these guys because I mean, it's all their dreams. Especially the younger ones like Sonata. Obviously, it's his dream to be a professional wrestler, and either way, he's good enough to you know whether he makes it big in the States, he can still be big over in Japan, which is good enough. A lot of guys, you know, would rather be big over in Japan or in Mexico just because wrestling is professional wrestling as a sport is a lot more respected in places like Mexico and Japan, whereas here it's sports entertainment now. Um, so I mean, hopefully, like I said, these guys, find what they're looking for. Hopefully, Taz figures out what he wants to do and doesn't just disappear from us because we love Taz, we love him. We don't love him in Tough Enough because he was kind of a douche. I'm gonna be honest. I rewatched it again. He was a jackass, but you know. Um, But I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just it sucks. It feels like everyone's leaving all these companies recently, and it's like who's next? I'm just dreading looking like on the like prowrestling.com and seeing like somebody I really like leaving, um, which hasn't happened yet. But now it's probably going to that I said that.
All right. Also Wikipedia, stay away from it, but I was just looking at it and it says that Sanada has begun working more regularly on the American independent circuit. So maybe we'll see him sometime soon. Maybe. So that's exciting. Or maybe
Yeah.
Wikipedia's lying to me. Hope not. But hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys Thursday, I think, for the NXT review. Unless I find some other random news to report, we will do it. See you guys later. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye. Peace.